Hi there, welcome back to our channel. In today's video, we are going to take you through the construction processes, the quantity of material, as well as the cost that it took us to bring this 5-bedroom duplex from the foundation to the DPC. Stay tuned as we take you through the process. So the first activity we do when we enter a site is to square the building space to ensure that the building would fit well into the land. After that, then we mark out the foundation spaces, and as at this point, the foundation spaces for this particular building had already been marked out, the lines tied and marked with sand, and of course the excavation started. Now when this is being done, we painstakingly mark out the foundation spaces as it is on drawing, ensure taking references from established points. For instance, the fence here could be a reference point from which you take an offset. Then the road is also a reference point. A beacon stone is also a reference point. And so when we do all this, we ensure that we've taken out the marked out the offsets and then start the building process itself. In other words, when drawings are being done, there is something we call a site plan. So this site plan actually positions the building the way it should be on the land. So we recreate the survey plan and then position the building inside the plan. Now, this helps us to take reference points and ensure that when we go to the site, we put the building the way it is on the drawing. So that's exactly what we did here, ensuring that the building is actually situated at the exact points that it was situated in the drawing. And now, after the setting out has been done, the excavation of the foundation trenches continues. So when we go to site, the excavation of an average duplex takes about 2 days. And then comes the casting of the foundation trenches, the mounting of columns, and all those will take about another 2 days. So the work you're seeing here is already like 4 days work. And here is the setting out of the block from the foundation. And of course, this takes a clue from the profile board, which you've already taken up there. So we plumb, when you put the line, then you plumb it down to get the block, then square it. Of course, we also plumb down the other side and then square it to ensure that you get the spaces. And then once all the external places are gotten from the profile boards and plumbed down, it's now easy to demarcate the internal spaces. And once all the external walls are square, it means that this setting out was a success because every other thing would be square inside the building. So that is the process of work being done here. And as you can see, as we are forming the site, the work is ongoing. And of course, we carried out so many of these works at the same time. So after all the points have been gotten and plumbed down from the profile board, then the next thing is to, of course, get every space of the building out with at least one block. And after one block has been gotten, then we now start laying blocks up to the DPC level. Now, the DPC level is determined at different levels, implying that DPC level for one building will be different from that of another building. So, for this particular one, we had like 6 blocks from the foundation, and then of course the chaining beam, which we use to tie the building together. And of course, this serves dual purpose. First of all, to ensure that every load in the building is linked to the columns and transferred to the foundation. That's number one. Then in the case of places where the soil is weak, for instance, that it could, during dry season, it could solidify and then expand during the wet season, the rainy seasons. This could lead to cracks in a building. But where it is chained like this, it limits that. So even if there is any movement around or under the foundation, it will not affect the building itself. So that is what we're doing here, the chaining process, just before the filling of the foundation with laterite. And after this chaining is done, the next thing that comes on top of it is the mass concrete. That is the what we call in general terms the German floor. That's the DPC. Now, at this point, the casting of the chaining beam had been completed and the filling of the foundation space with laterite commenced. Now, there is one thing that is noticed during the filling. Now, the quantity of sand needed depends on a number of things, which includes the height of the foundation. Now, when you hear that the person needed 40 trips or 30 trips of laterites to fill the foundation, these are the things that cause it. One, the depth of the foundation. Two, the kind of sand. There's some sand that you just pour in, and as soon as you pour out, everything falls. Then three is also the size of the truck bringing the sand. Because, for instance, when you use 15 tons to do a quote and they end up bringing the sand with a 7 tons tipper, of course, the quantity is not going to be the same. So when you are budgeting for your project, you should take into consideration what is the tonnage of the truck bringing so and so sand. So that is the things that make the difference. Now, remember, when you are looking for a high foundation, which leads to a high DPC, always bear in mind that it is going to cost you in filling that foundation space to the DPC level. You know, and averagely, an average duplex will take between 20 to 40 trips of sand. Let's just say like the 15 tons to fill to the DPC level, depending on the situation in the site. You know, in some sites you may have some sand here and there that will help the process, and in some you wouldn't have anything at all. So where you don't have anything at all, just start budgeting like between 20 to 40 trips of sand or filling sand to fill the entire foundation space. Now, when watering the sand after the fillings, there are some particular points that are very important. Like you can see, all the corners as he's doing now. If you don't water these corners very well, it will not sink. And if it doesn't sink now, later on in the future, when the sand takes moisture from inside the ground, it will then compress itself and then fall. And at that time, you can see what is happening now. And when this happens, when you have already covered the DPC, that will now start making one kind of sound boop, 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 when you are walking on top of the DPC. And that it introduces a hollow under the DPC. And it's not good to hear that kind of sound when you're in the house, because it could cause one or two problems. So what we do is to ensure that we water the DPC very well. And this implies, getting the water to getting the sand to soak in water very well, particularly getting all the points, ensuring that the sand drinks enough water before we compress it and before the DPC comes on top of it. And you will see that after this watering, the whole filling will sink. Then we'll have to fill again before we do the DPC. So as at here, the dirty work of the foundation is almost completed. So you can see now what we're doing is compacting the sand with the compacting machine, after which we introduce the DPM and then the casting of the DPC, which marks the end of the first milestone begins. So that is the work that is going on here, compacting and also filling any place we feel that needs more sand, and then compact again, so that by the end of the day we'll have a relatively level surface to receive the concrete. So, by the time the DPC was cast, it was observed that the following material had been used: 1 bag of 2 inches nails, 1 bag of 3 inches nails, 5 bundles of peg, 28 lengths of 2x2 profile. Of course, we had 12 lines that we used to set out the buildings. The shovels were 5 and headpans 5 that were bought for this project. Then 2 wheelbarrows. The cement used to achieve this from foundation to DPC was 200. Then the sharp sand, and what we're using there is the 7 tons tipper was 5 trips. Then we had the 30 tons of chippings. That's the granite used for the casting. Then the 16mm rods were 25. 12mm rods were 8, which includes that used for the starter, the basket, then the one used for the chaining. Then the 8mm rods were 30. The binding wire was 1 roll. Then the 9 inches blocks that were used to build the house from foundation to the DPC level was 2,200. And the filling sand that were used were 20 trips. Then that's of the same 7 tons. Then the sand, the local stone that we used for the casting of DPC were 4 trips. Then, of course, we had the 50 kg of the nylon used as damp-proof membrane. Then we bought 120 pieces of board, which we used for the boarding of the pillars as well as the chaining beam. In all, the total cost of the material used to achieve these projects from foundation to DPC was 9,701,700 naira. Whereas the total cost of the labor and the engineer's fee on this particular project was 1,850,000 naira to bring the project from foundation to the DPC level. This brought the total cost in today's terms, that is 2025, to bring this project from foundation to DPC to 11,551,700 naira. Thank you for being with us this far, and see you in our next one.